Hi, I'm Liam. Welcome to Book of Films. Before we start this episode, I just want to say I'm not in my usual location, so this video is not going to be quite as good or as crisp. I don't have my PC or my microphone with me, so I'm using a combination of a free iPad recorder, Windows Movie Maker, and an outdated version of Illustrator. So don't expect anything Oscar worthy today. But I thought I'd go anyway, so here goes. With Black Panther smashing the box office and becoming one of the highest grossing superhero movies and movies of all time, the sequel is going to be put on high priority, and with that comes a question: who will be the villain? Black Panther doesn't exactly have the strongest rogues gallery as it stands, and with the two most famous antagonists already used, they will need someone great to rival Killmonger and Claw. I think I know just the guy: Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom isn't usually a villain for Black Panther, but they did, however, cross over in the 2010 Doom War comic, and both also debuted in the pages of the Fantastic Four. And with the deal between Fox and Disney almost, fingers crossed, happening, the road has already been paved for the epic face-off between these two dictators and kings. But why Victor Von Doom? Why is he a suitable opponent? Well, let me show you. I'm going to imagine what a potential film might look like, and with a few changes to Doom's backstory to make him fit in with the MCU, he might make a nice integral part to the movie and feel natural in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As Black Panther is one of Marvel's most political movies, and Vibranium as a great analogy for something like oil, we can explore how the revelation that T'Challa made at the end of the original movie has changed the world since. Imagine a country in the Middle East suddenly announced that they had thousands of untapped oil reserves. The rest of the world would set targets on them immediately, and that's just the route we're going to take. Doctor Doom is usually the dictator of the country Latveria, but here we're going to make one tiny change, and we're going to change Doom to be the dictator of the fictional country Sokovia. As you may remember, Sokovia was last being seen lifted into the sky and blown up in Age of Ultron. After the Ultron incident, we can imagine that Victor Von Doom rose to power in the subsequent chaotic months. Victor was has always been a smart man, and upon discovering Ultron's castle, which I don't believe was on the destroyed island, he began to learn as much as he could about robotics and more specifically the powers of vibranium when finding Ultron's corpse. He began applying his sciences to repair the broken country using what he'd learnt from Ultron. And becoming a hero of the people, he began to run for leader of a local city. As his power rose, so did his opposition, and a chemical attack from an assassin left his face disfigured. He soon began wearing a metal mask, hiding his face because he was disgusted at what he looked like. Um, but his mask and his new face became a symbol of Sokovian resistance. Now, as the country's dictator a few years later, Doctor Doom weaves a plan to turn the people of Wakanda against their king after learning of all the vibranium that comes from there. By blaming a Sokovian bombing on a Wakandan war dog in a terrorist attack incident, both T'Challa and Victor play a game of cat and mouse as spies and secrets push each king further and further towards all-out war. They're going to trudge closer and closer to each other, pushing each other's buttons almost in a Cold War scenario. Victor is ultimately turning T'Challa's decision to open up to the world, his greatest strength in the last movie, into his greatest weakness, just like any great villain should do. T'Challa would have to deal with his previous actions, regret, the cost of war, and the weight of his entire people's lives yet again on his shoulders. He'd have to debate whether to use vibranium weapons in the coming war, as he'd win with vibranium, but if he lost, vibranium is the one thing that Victor's fighting for, and he doesn't want it to end up in the hands of the enemy. Or does he want to protect his country's riches from the enemy and try and fight a war without vibranium? He could even follow a similar event to the Doom War comic, in which T'Challa makes vibranium inert so the enemy cannot use it. It's the ultimate decision, and it perhaps could change the series forever. The ideas for this potential idea are limitless, and I could go on forever, but obviously I'm not going to. I do think that's a great premise for a film. A villain to match the popularity of the hero, check. Up stakes, check. A political narrative that feels timely in a post 9/11 Trump world, check. And it keeps most of the core aspects of Doctor Doom. He's a dictator, he gets the Doom bots from the Ultrons, he keeps the Iron Mask, he keeps the intellect, and he keeps the ego and the tragic backstory. I think treated properly, Doom vs. T'Challa could be a rivalry to match and surpass Black Panther 1. Agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments. And for more pop culture stuff, stick with us and subscribe if you want, and I'll buy you a churro.